Hey everybody, welcome to Get Real with Michael Phillips, a weekly podcast in which we're going to have honest conversations with imperfect Christians who serve a perfect God. I'm Michael, and on June 29, 2012, God called me all in. He changed my life. Although I was a Christian, I was living short of the life that He created me to live. And He gave me a message to share with Christians across America. And each week on this podcast, we're going to talk about that message. You'll hear a little bit about my journey, but also from guests, Christians across America, willing to come on and share their journeys. Some names you may recognize, many you won't, but they're going to talk about their ups and their downs and how they're making a difference right where God has placed them. Join us each week to be encouraged, but also challenged. The title of the podcast is Get Real. So we're going to talk about real life. We're not just going to feed you ice cream here. We want you to laugh with us. We want you to cry with us, most importantly. We want you to grow with us. Be real, be you, be all in. All right, hey everybody, welcome to Get Real. I have Brett Smith here with us today. Brett and I are first cousins, but we're only a year apart in age. Honestly, he's more like my brother than my cousin. I don't have a brother. We've grown up together. Our family is close. Our family remains close. And this came about for a couple of reasons, I guess. During COVID, some things happened. Brett lives up in Nashville. He's from here in the Baton Rouge, Louisiana area, like I am, but moved up to Nashville years ago because he's a professional musician. And so that's how he makes his living, takes care of his family. And of course, COVID made it a little different in Nashville last year, and so in through that, Brett had some free time that he probably wouldn't have had otherwise, and it's awesome to see how the Lord always uses that, sort of pulled him all in, and it's been a neat journey over the last year, I think, for Brett and for his family. Despite it all, they've just been blessed a lot through that time. And so we've been having conversations since then. But last week, I called Brett because candidly, we had a little bit of a disappointment in the family. Something go on that didn't go the way we wanted it to go. And look, it's real life. That's okay. It happens. But I kind of needed somebody to vent to, somebody that would just listen and not trivialize it, because to some, I think it probably seemed like not a very big deal. But when it involves your kids and you want the best for your kids, and something doesn't go the way that you think it should have gone, that can be tough to deal with. So we're just talking and having just real honest conversation about it. I was sharing with Brett just some of the struggle that I was having in some of the real conversation with God that I was having, asking basically, why is it that we're getting so many no's? And I know God has a plan, but man, I'm sure tired of the no's. And why is it that you can be seems like you can be a no good SOB, and everything goes your way, and yet when you're doing the right things, not that any of us always do the right things or any of us are perfect, but when your heart's in the right place and you're constantly battling and trying to do your best to glorify God and to live the life you were born to live, man, it seems like you're constantly getting punched in the mouth. And so, we just started having an honest conversation about that. And of course, we really know a lot of the answers. We know what the Bible says about that, and that we live in a fallen world and all those things. But anyway, the more we got into it, at some point, Brett said to me, this is what people need to hear. Not somebody standing up on a stage necessarily, or somebody that runs a ministry giving answers, but just two real people going through life, doing their best to figure out their journey, and to do the best they can. So we decided we would get on and we would just have that conversation. We'll see where it goes. I don't know exactly where it'll go today, but we're gonna have fun with it. We're just gonna be ourselves, and hopefully it's a blessing out there to somebody. So Brett, with that, brother, maybe just tell everybody a little bit about you, and maybe a little about your journey, and then we'll just dive in.
Yeah, like Mike said, we're brothers more than anything, and both grew up Catholic in a tight Southern Louisiana Catholic family. Get together for everything. I mean, everything: birthday, tooth pull, whatever.
Yeah.
And But in that, there was always faith, but there was never, or our experience with it was there was never any real scripture, any real Bible, any real honest teachings from the Word, and it was always the rituals, and the whole thing that everybody hears: you sit, stand, kneel, be quiet, get slapped when you're not. And that was church, and go to catechism and do all the things, go through the motions, but you don't know what the motions are. And so I've played music. God was fortunate enough to send me in that direction, and that, or I was just too hard headed to listen to say
It's
otherwise, which
probably a little
is
of both.
probably. And So yeah, so as we grew up, all our friends and stuff started, getting married and having kids and stopped traveling. And once again, I was the only one stubborn enough to not. And that's what took me across the country and eventually to Nashville, where I've been for 12, 13 years, something like that now, which is crazy to think about. Um, but with that also caused me to work a lot of late night, especially Saturday nights. So that left Sunday morning church not impossible, but not easy. And therefore, it didn't work out for me. I just didn't go to church anymore. And even though I would pray sometimes, I never questioned my faith. I didn't really know any more about it than that. Fast forward that through many years, and I met my wife, and then we had our first son. And that made us, when we started to like, okay, yeah, let's go back to church. And we started going back to church. Then it became near impossible because we were still looking for a church. Um, we were trying to find a place that do we send our newborn son to nursery, and no, that wasn't the answer for us. And so we sit there and he's crying the whole time and we're fidgeting and all the things. And it's like, what's the point of going to church if we're not getting anything out of this? We're just walking into a different building to bother other people with his screams. So then that became turn on the TV on Sundays. And for a lot of that, I was still on the road a lot of times. So it really started with my wife. And then every Sunday morning, she would turn it on to a church, which was basically the gospel, and she would watch that amidst all the craziness of a newborn. And then our second one came along, and I was still traveling. But when he came along, that kind of forced me to a place where I wanted to be. I just didn't know I could be,
Mm.
which was still play music, but not travel and be part of the family more often. And so I got off the road. And with that, that made me home on Sundays. And so I got to see the routine weekly. And then it was background noise. Then it became more of a focal point of Sundays. And then when COVID hit, well, then there's nothing. And then all excuses are out the window. And it hit me really hard at that point. Everything that I kind of felt bad for, like, yeah, I could go with 4 hours of sleep and go to church or get up and watch this or be involved more. But there was always an excuse. Well, God took that excuse away from me
Mm.
with COVID. And so everything that I thought I had an excuse for, he said, oh, you can't because of that? Okay, let's just take that away. Now, why can't you? Okay, let's take that away. And he just kept stripping things away
Mm.
until it was like, all right, God, here I am. Like, yeah, I've got nothing else. My community was gone, so I had to work to rebuild a new community in the COVID era. Money gone. Uh, so all that was left was God, my family, and I couldn't have been happier. I mean, it was really like, man, everybody talks about how bad 2020 was, but for me, it was amazing. I didn't get to play music that much, but everything else that's way more important than that was there. And it even to a point where my wife's from Louisiana. She moved to Tennessee for me. And we've always talked about, yeah, we're gonna go back. We want our kids to grow up with grandparents and cousins and the way we grew up. But it's finding the time where it's the right time, we can afford it, all that stuff. Because there's no work for me in Louisiana doing what I currently do. So it was even God, is now the time? And do we pack up and move home? Is this what it is? And every time I would ask that question, almost within the week, if not sooner, here's money, here's work, here's this, here's more community to help you in your, because they always say it takes a village, and it does. And our village is in Louisiana, so God started giving us a new village to help out, and it just was like, well, okay, so you want me to? I know I'm stubborn, but now I'm starting to think maybe you're telling me this is where I need to stay right now. And then it was just be more confirmation, more confirmation. It was like, okay, all right, I'm here then. Here we are. And now we're in 2020 or 2021. I'm in, and things have picked up, as just like before COVID. But the difference is now God is a focal point, and I make sure I read the Bible. I'm not just, yeah, I've heard somebody say that in the Bible, or I read the Bible when I was 10 or whatever it was. And oh yeah, I've seen those words on pages.
Yeah.
Now it's let me understand what those words mean, and not only what those words mean, but what do they mean to me now? Because in my short journey, they've already meant something different from the first time I read them.
Yeah.
And I see as I'm going through the New Testament and each gospel, it's like, well, this is the same stories that the last one is. Why is he telling me this again? Mm-hmm. And then I go do the same thing that I did before, and I was like, oh yeah, because I'm an idiot and I need to hear it again. I need to read this again, because I'm doing the same. Like, I'm not the same person, but I'm doing the same things.
Yep.
And I want to spin it in a new way to where, oh yeah, but it's different. And I'm like, no, it's not. No, it's not. I'm still an idiot. That's not how you do things.
Yeah.
And you know better than this. And that's why we've got it every chapter. It's going to be the same story, because you need to learn it, drill it in your head. And but yeah, in a as honest it can be. I mean, I even question. It's like, I thought I knew how to pray. Then I knew that I didn't know how to pray.
Yeah.
Then I thought I knew how to pray again. And now I'm back to where it's like, man, I feel like I'm talking to God, and I feel like I'm saying the right things. But then I'll read like a devotional or something, and they'll be like, let's pray. And I'll read that prayer, and I'm like, wow, that prayer is amazing. Like, I want to say those things. I want to pray about those. Like, why doesn't that happen whenever I'm praying? So that's kind of been my journey and where I'm at now. And
that's awesome, man.
It's been amazing, and it's continuing to grow and move forward. And sometimes it scares me, because I'm like, the more I know, the more he's probably going to put on me, and the more he's going to expect from me. Do I really want to know more? Because man, this there's already a lot. But
I get that.
At the same time, I think he knows that, and he's not going to give me more than I can handle. And if I
Yep.
can't handle it, he's got my back. And as a father, and I, I see so many of the things when I am reading the scriptures, and I'm like, yeah, duh, this is no different than what I would be to my son. And if
Yeah.
he messes up, I'm not going to punish him forever. He loves me as long as I know he loves me, and then I'm going to do everything I can, no matter how many times he messes up.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to hold that against him. And God is no different with us than I am to my kids.
Yeah. Just better. Just better, right?
way,
Way
way better,
better. And we
way
need it.
better.
It's one of the things you and I were talking about last week is that I was just open with you that I was Cherie and I, and for those of you that don't know, Cherie is my wife. Cherie and I were having a conversation, just being supportive husband and wife to one another during a time of disappointment, right? About some of the no's that we've seen as a family, and kind of in a place where God brought us back to this place where does it make sense to ask God for any, if God already knows what he's going to do, if he's already got it figured out and he's going to do what is supposed to be done anyway, then why am I asking for anything? Why don't I just say, Lord, have your, like, whatever you want is what I want. I'm not even gonna ask. And a little bit of that came out of a place of rebellion, candidly, of fine, I'm just not asking you for anything anymore. Because every time I ask, you say no. So I don't care. Whatever you want, then fine. You want to bless me today? Bless me today. You don't want to bless me? Don't bless me. Help me to persevere through it. And while that's really a lot of the right attitude, it came from a little bit of a place of rebellion, and God sort of broke me down over a couple of days and broke Cherie down over a couple of days. And then and you and I were talking a little bit about that. After you and I talked, the Lord kind of answered the next day with me, and I told Cherie, the Lord says He wants us to ask Him, even though He's going to do what He wants to do. He wants us to ask Him because it glorifies Him for us to depend on Him, and He wants us to ask Him, and if He answers, it glorifies Him. If He doesn't answer, us having the right attitude about it, or if the answer is not what we expect, I should say, us having the right attitude about it glorifies Him. And so it glorifies Him either way. And just like we want our kids to ask us for something, to your point a second ago, but we don't always right answer the way that they want us to, um, we still feel like we know what's best and are doing what's best for our kids. We know God knows what's best and is doing what's best for us if our hearts are really surrendered to Him. And so He wants us to ask because He wants us to depend on Him and rely on Him, but He wants us to glorify Him no matter what. And so where what started out as a little bit of frustration and rebellion and kind of like, fine, Lord, I'm just done asking. You do what you want. You're going to do that anyway. So I don't really care. I don't care. You want to bless me with this, bless me with it. You don't. You want this to be successful? Great. You don't. I don't really care. Where that started out of a little bit of frustration, God kind of used it, let me throw my fit for a few minutes, and then kind of brought me back to, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, when I have the right attitude and I just give it all to you, it actually allows you to do what you need to do for us anyway, and I can just get out of the way and not worry about it, and you get glorified because I'm dependent on you.
It's amazing. And yeah, I mean, I see the, I've got a 2 almost 3 year old and a just turned 5 year old, and the temper tantrums are, they're at their peak moments.
Yep.
And yeah, and I don't think that we're any different. And I think part of the conversation that we had talked about time, and what is time for God? What is a day, a week? I mean, He knows for us it's a lot, but at the same regard, he's like, slow down. You all right? I got you. I got you.
Hmm.
Just because you're not getting it this moment doesn't mean you won't get it. Doesn't mean it won't happen. It's just not time yet. And some of that might not even be based on us. I think we talked about even in the situation that it probably is more needed and worked out better for the people that did get a yes, because that's all they have. That is their one and only, truly their one and only yes.
Yeah.
And God might be saying that, like, hey, I know you don't want to hear this no right now, but you can handle this. They can't. And we don't see that picture. We don't know what that looks like. We just have to put our trust and faith in him that whatever it is, it's for the greater good. And man, that's hard to do. It's real hard to do.
Yeah, it's easy to say and hard to do.
Absolutely. And, and I see it. I mean, I don't know how many times I see where, people are always asking me in my business, when are you going to be famous? Or, hey, this guy you're playing with, oh my God, he's the next greatest thing and whatnot. Or how is this guy not just superstar? And yeah, and yet, I mean, everybody's read Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll their whole life. It's painted on every media outlet out there. And it's like, why is that getting glorified? And why are they getting glorified for something? But on the other side of that, I was listening to a drummer's podcast yesterday, actually. And the both guys were just talking, and both guys are not people you would ever know, but they've played on big records and big tours and stuff. And they said they were talking about how they were talking to some other people, like when they were playing Conan or playing Saturday Night Live and stuff. And they're like, oh yeah, I was here 6 years ago for this. And they're like, so what have you been doing since then? Well, I've been playing music still. I'm like, well, you've been playing music for 6 years, making a living playing drums for 6 years. They're like, yeah. And I'm like, you understand how difficult that is? That doesn't happen. Like, and so even in the stars and the famous people you see, and people want to glorify that, whatnot. It's like, how many of those are one-hit wonders and they're gone, or they're broke, or they're whatever? I've been fortunate to not have a day job since 2001, just playing drums. And if there's something I want to do that helps make extra money, I can do that, but I don't have to do that. And that right there helped put it in perspective for me from what we were talking about. Is it may seem like a no, because I might not be on the stage that I want to be on, but I am on a stage and I'm providing for my family, and I'm as close to God as I've ever been. And I can't worry about other people and what they have or don't have or anything. And there's a bigger picture that I don't understand, and I don't really care to understand, because it's just, I'm doing good to handle me and my family, and try to understand that and where I fit with this, to know that, what was a no for me was a yes for someone else that might have saved their life.
Yeah.
And that's more important, because we're all God's children and he loves us all equally. And that's, sometimes you look at people and you're like, no way you're God's children. How could you possibly be one of God's children? But they are. And it's, man, it's just the growing pains for us that he already has planned. And I think he does. He wants, he definitely wants us to glorify him with that. But he also wants us to make the decision, and he wants to give us the autonomy, and then he can navigate those waters with our decision of, okay, yeah, man, you did that. It's not really the way I wanted you to do it, but we'll get there. Just like we did with our fathers and we do with our children. Like, man, you messed up. Now let's figure it out. And you figure it out together, and you get back on the path, and you keep moving forward, and you fall back off, and you get back up. The famous, it's not when you're going to fall or how you're going to fall. It's how you get back up.
Hmm.
And that's what matters. And as long as we get back up through God, um, then we're doing it the right way.
Yeah, man, that's well said. It's best to keep it simple like that. It's hard to keep it simple like that because we want to know the answers. I think naturally I want control. I've always wanted to control the situation, but it's like yeah, I know. But you can't, you're not one to talk. You're cut from the same cloth. You want control
What?
too. But God's taught us the older we get, I think we get more wise. But I don't want to be in control anymore, man. I don't want to be in control. Me in control is a disaster. I want to stay surrendered. I want to keep it as simple as you just laid it out. I want to get up today. I mean, my prayer this morning was, Lord, I don't know what you have in store today. We thought we were going to be at a baseball tournament. It's raining. We're not going to be at the baseball tournament. So I don't know what you have in store, but whatever you got in store, I'm good with. Show me what to do. Show me where to go. Show me who to talk to. Show me how I can be a blessing to somebody. Um, I just want to be that surrendered and just enjoy the journey, man. It is hard to enjoy the journey, but especially when things don't go the way you like, especially when you look at the world and you see some of the people you're alluding to having success, when you see the world so different than it was when you and I grew up, in the mid to late 80s. The world is just a crazy, crazy place. And you see some of that, um, and it can be hard to stay surrendered and to keep it simple and to just let God have his way because I want to get in and fix it. I want to get in and fight. There's a fight to be had. Let's go fight. Let's go get it done. Let's go. But I've learned the older I get, and I hope what people hear is we're sort of all over the place. But what I hope people hear here is they can relate to all this stuff in their own journey. And I hope that what people hear is um, it's okay to feel the way you feel. It's okay to struggle sometimes with disappointment and with no's, and it's okay to fall sometimes. And yeah, it doesn't make you feel any better to hear the old analogy maybe of it's how you get back up, but that doesn't make it less true. It's true. You've got to get up and you got to keep going. And so I hope what people hear in our conversation today is that our journeys are just like theirs. We don't have it all figured out. We go through
No,
things each and every day.
and I'm no minister. I'm no nothing. I'm a child of God and a Jesus Christ follower. And I feel like I'm brand new to the journey, even though I've had faith
Mhm.
my entire life. I mean, it is. It's like everybody else, just trying to figure it out. I learned something last year that I was told in one of the Sunday church things that I was watching. I don't even remember what it was, but um, he was like, you've been part of every bad decision you've ever made. You have. So
Mhm.
why don't you listen to God and see if you can't stop that? I was like, well, yeah, what makes me think I know better than God? And yeah, every bad decision I've ever made, and there's plenty of them, and there's plenty more to be had. And usually it's because I'm just not going to listen to anybody else and I'm going to do my way. And yeah, that's never the right way.
Yep.
Not without some sort of counsel
Yeah, man.
to, yeah, I mean, it's like, who do I think I am?
Yeah.
But yeah, the older I get, the more, yeah, the more simple things are.
Mhm.
In the fact of it's not that crazy of right or wrong. It's not that crazy of what you're supposed to do. It's really not hard hard stuff. Um, one of the things that I learned, and I don't understand why it's not focused on more, at least in the way we were growing up. And I'm assuming I haven't seen a difference in the Catholic Church, but to Jesus' final commandment. love the way I love. I mean, how is that not one of the main commandments that's spoken about, if not the only one that's spoken about? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's all of them. It takes everything that we've ever learned and puts it in one sentence.
Yeah.
Um, and is the world different? I think the accessibility to everyone and everything is different, but I don't know that the world is different. I think it was just as bad then. You had just as many crazy things going on. You had mass murderers, you had serial killers, you had all the things, and but now you just hear about it every time somebody pulls a gun anywhere. It's blasted across the news. Anytime somebody, gets in a car wreck, it's blasted everywhere. And now you have Twitter that comes instantly, and it's in your pocket. And so I think those things make it appear that
Yeah.
it's
It's
worse
more
than
in
it
your, it's
was.
more in your face. Yeah.
Yeah, but
I
I don't
mean,
think it necessarily was. I think it was always that bad. I mean, it's just how we navigate it, and the only way is through Jesus Christ. I mean, that's the only way to navigate it, and that's the only chance we all have of getting out of here, and
yeah.
moving on.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's true. We are, we definitely, it's more in our face today. I think the internet and just the media, there are things that we're more aware of, probably to your point, than we were in the past. But there's always been evil. There's always been struggles. There's always been persecution. And there always will be until the day Christ comes back. Um, I think I think most people get that. Um, but I think it's just it's so hard. It's hard when you're going through day to day and you're struggling and you're seeing these things. It's hard sometimes just to keep it in that perspective. That, hey, this has always been a battle. I think a lot of times we forget the battle is spiritual. It's way bigger than what we see. We see all these things, but the real battle is behind the scenes. It's spiritual, and so it's just hard sometimes to keep the perspective. Which is, look, it's why I hope, if you're watching this, um, surround yourself with one or two people that you can have conversations with about that kind of stuff. What the enemy wants to do is isolate us and make us feel like we're the only one going through the struggle. I mean, he does that all the time. I talk to people all the time where they feel like they're the only one not good enough, the only one that doesn't have it together, the only one that doesn't have the answers, the only one that's not achieving what they want to achieve, the only one that's not adequate. All, that's what he does over and over and over. Surround yourself with people you can have real conversations with, like Brett. I mean, I can call Brett and not fear judgment. I can say, I am frustrated with God right now. Let me tell you what's going on and what happened here. And I don't understand this. And I know he's good and I know he's got it, but I just need to vent for a minute. And you got to have people like that.
Absolutely, and you need people, because once again, I hope all the listeners just understand how ignorant I am with all this stuff. Like whenever I say,
I'm going to
Mike and I
record that
talked about
statement,
this.
by the way, and I'm going to clip it and I'm going to send it to you like every day on your phone.
Please do, please do. I need that reminder, because there's a lot of times where, hey, no, I'm right. No, I'm right. But going off of what you're saying, like, I remember when a year ago, whatever it's been now, that Mike and I discussed it, and how when we would go to a meeting or see people talking, and it's like, oh, they're quoting this scripture, and oh yeah, this is like Mark and Matthew. And I'm over here saying, I don't even know. Wait, what chapter is that? No, that sounds like a ridiculous name. How is that a chapter in the Bible and I've never heard of it? And my dad or whoever's saying, oh yeah, no, it's in this, and I'm like, you must be saying that wrong. And I go look in the Bible, and sure enough, there's a chapter named whatever, Leviticus or whatever it is, and it's like, wow, like, how did I not even know that chapter existed, much less a verse or to recall it? Um, and I told Michael a year ago, and I still believe it today, that I think right now, at least, God doesn't have me memorizing that stuff because he wants me to read that book. He wants me to, hey, when you have a question, open the book. I'll take it from there instead of remembering it, because I think a lot of times in life, the repetition of something changes the meaning of it to the words.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't ever want it to change to the words. You want it to always be the meaning of it. And you need to continuously revisit that meaning. You don't want it to get stale. You want it, the moment that it's old hat to you is the moment the devil wins and God loses.
Yeah, man.
So for everybody out there, I've got friends that are struggling with it, that they've read the Bible back and forth and front and back, and you can't tell them anything because they've read it. They know it. They can quote it to you, but they don't remember what those words mean. They don't remember the definitions of those words and the translation of those words and how those words apply to them. They can just tell you the words.
Yeah.
Because they've had no too many times, and they've seen yes for someone else that they felt, one, that they've judged and felt that they're less deserving. And it's like, hey man, no. Go back and read. Check this out. Hey man, I just read this. Check this out. And they're like, yeah, I've read that. I know that doesn't pertain to me. I'm like, I think it does. Read it again. And so to not be so hard-headed to just dismiss something just because you've read it 5,000 times.
Yeah.
Because you haven't memorized. Go back, look at it. I mean, when you're having a conversation, you don't know what to say. When you have a job interview, when you're unsure of yourself, all of that is in the Bible. Don't ask me where, but it's in there.
Dude, I love it. I love the honesty, man. Your heart, I think it's easy. I talk to people sometimes, they'll say, well, I've been a Christian my whole life. That always bothers me a little bit when I hear that, because nobody's been a Christian their whole life. But I know what they mean. I know what they're getting at. I've been a Christian for a really long time. It's easy. It's really easy. Even for me, I'll just talk to me along my journey. It's really easy to kind of take for granted. Yeah, I've read that book of the Bible 7, 8, 9, 10 times. I don't need to go read that one again. I know what it says. But God gives you something new and fresh and what you need right then, if you do commit yourself to going and reading it. And it can be easy to lose. And Paul talks about this in the Bible, but it can be easy to lose your first love. And that excitement that you have. I remember getting a phone call from you, and I won't share it, but you basically said, I didn't get it. Now I get it. And it was like, everything was different. Everything was different. That new, fresh, exciting, we lose that over a period of time if we don't stay plugged in. And that's what you're saying, is you gotta stay plugged in. We never know it all. We never have it all figured out. Just stay plugged in. And look, when you're not plugged in, be honest that you're not plugged in. Have somebody you can rely on that can hold you accountable. And what I hope, and I know, I think this thing's probably about to end here in a second. But what I hope people do, turn your disappointments over to God. Stay plugged in daily. Surround yourself with people you can have honest, real conversations with, healthy conversations. Sometimes you're going to agree. Sometimes you're not going to agree. That's all okay. Just be real. Have the conversation. Glorify God in your attitude. And when you're not, own it. Know that He loves you. And to Brett's point, remember, He's that Father. Just like we're parents, and we don't hold something against our kids forever. He doesn't hold it against you either. Stop letting the enemy have that over you. Just be you. You glorify God when you're just you.
That's it. We were created in His image, and can't get any better than that.
Amen. All right, brother. We'll do this again. We're going to do this probably pretty often now. Just have conversations, see what happens, see what God's got going on, see what He says. And hopefully it ends up, people can, if nothing else, they can laugh at us. And
I'm good with that too.
I'm good with it too. It doesn't matter. Go have a good gig. I love you. I'll talk to you soon.
Right. Love you too.
We've reached the end of our episode, but I just wanted to take a second to remind you that every day
is a precious gift from God. It may not always feel that way. We have good days and we have bad days, but if you still have breath in your lungs, then God has work for you to do. Surrender to him today. He loves you. He adores you. He's waiting for you. Just take one step at a time. Everywhere you go today, proclaim the kingdom of God. That means bringing his righteousness, peace, and joy into every situation you can to right what is wrong in the world. That is the job of the church, of the ecclesia. Until next time, be real, be you, be all in.